Another adventure in the can. It's so good to be home again. Something tells me I'm forgetting something, but I don't know what it is. What the heck? Huh. Blu-ray player. What's so special about this one? No. What the? It works! It works! Oh, it works! Now, I can go beyond the boundaries of American nostalgia no one's ever dared or dreamed to even possibly do. And it all requires AAA batteries. I am gonna rule! But that's for another day. Enjoy today's show!
Standing in the middle of nowhere, wondering how to begin. Lost between tomorrow and yesterday, between now and then. Back where you started. Here we go round again. Back where you started. Come on, do it again, do it again, do it again. Back where we started. Here we go round again. Day after day I get up and I say, do it again, do it again. Day after day I get up and I say, come on, do it again, do it again, do it again, do it again.
Historical dramas are a trend. What the? This is new. Historical dramas are a trend that have slowly been on the rise as of late. While it's hard to pinpoint exactly when it all started, it greatly varies on the story that someone is interested in. From Bohemian Rhapsody to seeing Tom Hanks as Mr. Rogers, every tale has some sort of hook to get your interest. However, features like this were not as commonplace back then. A good majority tended to over-exaggerate the story for the sake of entertainment, while others didn't care much for accuracy. Once in a while you get that one which meets somewhere in the middle that proves to be entertaining, but also presents that it did its homework. That is the case of today's pick. Ah, yes, the Cotton Club. Ever since I heard of the production stories, my gut told me this would be given the spotlight someday. The idea came from producer Robert Evans, who originally wanted to direct it. Despite vouching for the project to get made, his reputation in Hollywood was diminishing due to a string of box office disappointments and some deep addictions. At the last minute, Evans decided to switch directing duties to Francis Ford Coppola, as he personally pleaded to the Godfather director, and I quote, "I have a sick child, I need a doctor." Considering how deep Coppola was in debt after making One from the Heart, he accepted the job, bringing in a different vision from Evans. To detail what went on behind the scenes would require another video. The Cliff Notes version goes something like this. The story was being constantly rewritten before and during production, with author Mario Puzo being replaced by William Kennedy of Ironweed fame. Because Evans' deal with Orion Pictures didn't provide any production funding, the budget for the Cotton Club was financed by a range of backers, from Las Vegas casino owners to even an Arab arms dealer. One of these backers was even vaudeville performer Roy Radin, who got tragically murdered during production. The trials that proceeded would mark a stain on this movie so dark that it would rival the tragedies of the Poltergeist films and The Crow combined. The relationship of Coppola and Evans didn't fare better as they kept fighting over who had true control over the feature in the final cut. In the end, it didn't really matter. While the Cotton Club did earn good reviews, it was unfortunately a commercial failure. Even if the crazy production stories went public before its 1984 holiday release, audiences and critics are more focused on enjoying Beverly Hills Cop.
Stakeout? No. I'm picnicking. This is like a picnic area.
While also ripping David Lynch's Dune a new one.
Because, just as an example of a totally misguided project, I think it deserves a little niche of its own in the Cinematic Hall of Fame. It's a skunk.
Some even cited they heard rumors of a TV edit with extra footage and waited for that instead, but sadly nothing came of it.
Bloody repeats!
The movie was swept under the rug, but eventually over time it got its cult audience. So the true question is, can a movie of great production tale woe actually turn out to be good? The answer is a resounding yes! A majority of the Cotton Club can be split up into two categories. One is the fictionalized aspect, and the other is the historical aspect. In fictionalized, we have two people trying to make it big. Yeah, that old story about the rise of stardom. However, what makes this more unique is how the two are parallel to each other. Richard Gere plays Dixie Dwyer, a musician who is working with mobsters, feeling it will advance his career. Opposite to that is Delbert Williams, aka Sandman, who wants to be a famous stage performer and takes a much rougher path. Before we continue analyzing, Sandman is played by famed dancer Gregory Hines. Moviegoers might remember him better for his cameo in The Muppets Take Manhattan, and more notably as Josephus in Mel Brooks' History of the World Part 1.
Yes, a little sand on the stage for the native Shim-Sham sand dance. Look out, I'm gonna start.
Hey, what country you from?
Ethiopia.
What part?
125th Street.
So the Sandman was a Sandman before Coppola's movie. How coincidental. We'll get back to that in a moment because there are elements of Dixie's story I have to discuss. Basically, Dixie ends up being a service to the mob after saving the life of Dutch Schultz. The task at hand is to watch Dutch's mistress named Vera, but the bugle blower ends up falling for her. With respect, Dixie does meet up Vera early on, so there is no love at first sight routine. They get an idea of who they are, and over time they start to bond more.
I'm quitting him. Quitting the Dutchman. I'm not running around for cigarettes. All I know is I'm getting away from that son of a bitch, getting him out of my life.
You're a tough guy.
This is what makes the relationship interesting because they both want to succeed big, yet they feel chained to the Mafia. Dixie wants to be a star, but is still linked with the mob and fears it might hold him back. Vera eventually gets her own nightclub, but is still under Dutch's grip. You get a sense they want to escape to bigger things, but feel prisoned. It gets much deeper considering Dixie saved Dutch's life, which makes the viewer believe Dutch can ease up and be respectful, when in actuality, Dutch goes back on his word when he notices Vera is after Dixie's bugle.
What were you doing backstage with him?
I was kissing him
You ever sleep with him?
whenever I got the chance.
Urge to kill rising.
Vera, played by Diane Cherry Lane, is also interesting too. Yeah, many would argue she is part of that trope where she yearns to break out, and there is that sense of it. But what differs here is her personality. She is snarky, feisty at times, and knows when to put her foot down. Diane's performance really brings out the mystery and fun of the character when it's needed. At times you can't tell if she really does want Dixie, and wonder if she's using Dutch to get what she wants. When she is with Dixie, you see how relaxed she is. And when Dutch is around, you get this cold and broken feeling between them. Again, it's a standard use of emotional cues, but I'm a sucker for stuff like that. Opposite to Dixie is Sandman's story. As said earlier, Sandman wants to make it big on stage, but is part of a duo act with his brother named Clay. The two of them are hired to perform at the famed Cotton Club, and they become a big hit. And as one would expect, Sandman gets an offer to go solo, and his brother feels this is breaking up their act. In fact, Sandman ends up alienating them altogether. Why is this part interesting? I'll get back to that shortly, because we also have a love interest in this plotline too. Sandman falls for the club singer, Lila Rose Oliver, and he tries to have a relationship. However, two things get in their way. One is the Cotton Club backstage management, and Lila's personal life. Something which I'll return to discuss later on as well. In most historical dramas, they always develop that one fictional character to give viewers an idea what it was like seeing the world through their eyes. In the case of Sandman, it offers a unique opportunity to see how black people were treated during the Prohibition era. And man, it's very engaging. In historical respect, the Cotton Club is used for black entertainers. Even if they couldn't be customers, they at least use it as a place for talent. Because the club was one of Harlem's hottest places, it makes sense for Sandman to use it to show his tap skills. But that is not the only reason why I like this storyline. You see, Sandman's brother Clay is betrayed by Gregory Hines' real-life brother Maurice, who is also a famous dance choreographer. Not only do you get to see some incredible tap routines, but it makes the drama between them all the more emotional. When they split up, you feel that break in their relationship. And when they do reunite, it feels like they both never missed a single step, and it does feel heartwarming when you see them rekindle.
What's the use of prohibition? You produce the same condition.
So all that is good, what about the historical aspects of the Cotton Club? Well, if there was one other historical drama I could compare this to appropriately, it would have to be James Cameron's Titanic. Because sadly, that is the only good comparison I could think of right now. In Cameron's Titanic, you had fictional characters interacting with real people, so you could witness the real-life events around them taking place. But the problem I always had with Titanic is the center story. It's your average romance plot that makes Outlander look like a masterpiece. You know, rich girl that sees heart in the lower class and some upper twit only loves her for money. Basic material that even Jane Austen could do better with. Now, that doesn't mean I hate Titanic. I still feel it's a well-made movie with some flaws, but the attention to historical detail Cameron brings is impressive nonetheless. The Cotton Club has the better advantage because everything had to be done practically. Sets had to be built, certain wardrobe and costumes had to be made that matched the time period, and even people had to speak certain lingo and talk like as if they were coming straight out of the 1930s. But they take an extra step further by having real-life people woven into the story too. And surprisingly, the scriptwriters paid careful attention to be respectful to them, even right down to getting cast members who look exactly like them. If you ask me, it's almost as uncanny when they had Tom Hanks playing Walt Disney. First up is the owner of the Cotton Club, Oni Madden, portrayed by Bob Hoskins. In real life, Oni got the nightclub from a former heavyweight as an outlet to sell his beer to the Prohibition crowd. While that goes unmentioned, the movie counterpart does nail the charm and pacifist nature of Madden. Well, a sort of pacifist nature. He runs the nightclub like any other nightclub and doesn't view violence as a means to solve issues. As always, Hoskins can deliver a role that is enjoyable and charming. Although it does feel strange seeing his Brooklyn accent before Roger Rabbit in Super Mario Bros., to which even at times does feel indistinguishable.
There's plenty of money in Harlem for everybody. It's hot, and it's getting hotter. You start this war business up there, and you got a brand new enemy, me. Get this straight, meatball. I don't work for Jones. Well, now this Yid is dead, we'll find out. Was that superior driving skills or what? Let's get out of here before this fungus stuff eats us alive.
The best part of Hoskins' audition is having him paired with Munster veteran Fred Gwaine for the role of Oni's partner Frenchie. Watching these two together are a delight. Fred is no stranger to working in a duo, as the comedy between him and Al Lewis is what made the Munsters and Car 54 Where Are You enjoyable.
We've stumbled onto a counterfeit ring, Harlan. This is the secret of Munster Hall.
Call, please. Call the FBI.
I'm getting...
Get Scotland Yard.
Right, I'll be back.
Phone Batman.
There's a similar feel here, but it's played up for drama. Instead of the comedic little guy in charge of the big guy, they work off each other, and you get the feeling there is a mutual friendship. A perfect example comes from one of my favorite scenes in the movie. Oni pays a ransom to get him back, and you just have to love how Frenchie tests the relationship.
You cheap son of a bitch! You only offered $500 for me? What? If you were kidnapped, I wouldn't offer more than that for you. $500? That's what I heard. 50 grand I paid for you. 50 grand? They only wanted 35. I gave them 50 not to hurt you. $500. I would have given $500,000. I'm worried sick about you. Shit, look what you done. Fucking watch.
50 grand?
Yeah. What's this? A platinum watch. You asshole.
And there you have it. Perfect chemistry from two really good actors in a Coppola film. Come to think, but is it too late to have the movie just be about them? Oh well. And speaking of surprises, we have a young Nicolas Cage who...
I'm a vampire! I'm a vampire! I'm a vampire!
Huh. That was interesting. Anyway, Nicolas Cage, who... Nicolas Cage...
No, not the beast! Not the beast! Ah! Oh, my eyes! My eyes! Ah!
I get it! Nicolas Cage is popular on the internet because there's so many memes about him and people like memeing him in every movie that he's in and da-da-da-da-da-da. I get it! Ugh, you don't have to spell it out for me. Come to think of it, people like memeing Nicolas Cage so much, why haven't they used this movie for meme fuel? You get away with many possibilities like this. Or this. And my personal favorite. Payday came 2 days early. As I was saying, Cage plays real-life hitman Vincent Mad Dog Call.
Mad Dog. I hate that name. I hate it. You hear?
Oh, then you're going to be annoyed by this fact. In the movie, it's really a fictionalized version of Vincent with two big changes. First being his name, so he can be related to Dixie Dwyer, so in the movie, he is Vincent Dwyer. The other is something that happened in real life, but slightly altered for plot purposes.
We will explain later.
Speaking of which, remember how I said Dixie and Sandman's stories felt parallel with each other? Aside from stardom, both of them have brothers. The biggest difference is that Vincent's descent into the mobster world goes darker as Dixie literally leaves him to his own devices. Unlike Sandman, who gets the opportunity to make amends, Dixie tries, but knows his brother is too deep into the trouble he created. The movie version shows how he doesn't seem that bad of a guy, he just makes some poor life choices that he can't fix, some of which are based on events that happened in real life. According to history, Vincent did kidnap Frenchie for ransom money and accidentally killed some children while trying to assassinate a bootlegger. The movie jumbles those events around so Dixie can see what his brother has turned into. Another notable change is the target they go after in the movie is the preacher from Poltergeist 2.
Well, come on. Shake.
Get it.
Pleasure visiting you here. As we call upon his name, aiding every good intent.
Surprisingly, they do pay accurate attention how Vincent got killed as Oni places a hit on him, and the film presents how he died in the same exact way. Again, when this movie gets details right, it does show the folks did their research. Another bit of evidence can be found with James's Raymar as Dutch Schultz. Much like the real-life counterpart, Raymar's portrayal is dangerously unhinged. Early in the future, we get a taste of how wild he can get, setting up the possibility of what he could do to Dixie. Aside from being a heavy drinker, he was a brutal man at best, and actually did kill someone in front of another. Raymar's performance can be argued as over-exaggerated, as from time to time he plays this mobster like he's lost more than just one screw in his head, but I still enjoy it because it's so engaging. You can see why Dixie and Vera are afraid to run away from him, because they don't know how to go against a man this savage and cross. As much as I don't want to spoil it, I still gotta admit, the beauty of Dutch's death scene near the end, which is edited to Sandman's big solo act, is a highlight not to be missed. While I do praise keeping the level of accuracy in how Dutch died, I just love how Sandman's tapping is mirrored to Dutch's final moments. And once the dance stops, so does Dutch. It is a great use of editing and cinematography that can't go ignored. It feels like one of the most underrated great scenes in all of cinema history. And that's another thing I find fascinating, is the presentation of the historical aspects. When they do depict real celebrities, there's a sense they did what they could do to preserve their mark. Music theater veteran Larry Marshall does a near spot-on Cab Calloway impersonation that mirrors the singer's actions. At times, it feels a little too energetic in spots, but it comes off as respectful nonetheless. Another element I was impressed with was how they presented the racial tension during the time period. It doesn't sugarcoat it, and it understands the social tension of the era. This is highly evident in the Lila character, which is revealed to be biracial. Now, something this movie made me think that never really crossed my mind is how biracial people were viewed back then in the 1930s. In the film's depiction, it appears they have similar rights as black and white people do, seeing their skin colors half and half.
The lawyer paid me double what the Cotton Club did, and Vera pays me 5 times that, and she don't ask no questions. I'm not black, I'm not white. I'm a human being. And that's the way I like it.
I can't even get into Vera's club to hear you sing. Domi won't even let me in.
I do question how accurate this is, but this is really something I've never thought of up until now. On the other hand, I do wonder if future movies set in the 1930s will take up an aspect like this, exploring biracial lives, but it's only a pipe dream at this point. In terms of technical work, this is a beautiful looking movie. Well, depending on which version you're watching, but I'm getting to that very soon. When it wants to add drama, the scene is lit and acted accordingly. When there is a musical number, it is filmed rightfully, but not to the point where the tone of reality is distorted. Of course, they do break that rule near the end, but it adds to the aspect of reality versus fantasy. The Cotton Club is more than just a movie about a place. It presents how so many lives are connected and how similar they can be. No matter if you change the name or the steps to routine, it will remain the same song, but played in a different manner. Even though I highly recommend this movie, there is one big thing I must address. If you're going to go see this movie, there are 2 cuts. The theatrical cut and the recently released Encore edition. Both have their own sets of pros and cons, and I'm certain fans of the original will leap to the defense and say the theatrical cut is better, and here's why they will say so. The Encore edition does have new scenes added back in, but it also removes stuff for one reason or another. Even stranger is how Coppola made the decision not to release the theatrical cut alongside the new edition onto Blu-ray. And yet he provided all 3 edits of Apocalypse Now sardined onto one Blu-ray set. Well, regardless, I watched both the theatrical cut and the Encore edition side by side, literally at the same time, even though it gave me an unfortunate case of double vision, and here are the highlights you must need to know. In terms of what the Encore edition adds back in, there is a great amount of material it restores. Those who have seen the original will notice all the musical numbers and dance acts have been fully restored to their show-stopping potential, with the addition of some new ones. One of them is a new number with Sandman as he woos Lilo that is kinda cute.
3 words describe a charms galore. 3 words I don't mean 4. Tall, tan, terrific, alright. Streamline Lula Bell from Tennessee.
The much talked about stormy weather scene has been added back in, which was rumored to have cost a little over $1 million. And man, the money shows here.
Life is bad, gloom and misery everywhere, stormy weather. Just can't get my poor self together.
More footage of Sandman in his storyline has been restored, which adds the unique parallels between his storyline and Dixie. It helps the viewer understand the story better, with the focus more on these two people of different social class and how their lives eerily mirror each other. This makes Dixie's story more tragic, as we see maybe things could have gone different if other choices were taken, and it adds a lot of weight to it.
No, it's not how it goes in real life, is it?
This ain't real life.
What is it?
It's jazz.
Another notable moment is a little bit of extra gore added in one of Dutch's kills, and while the execution feels like something more from a slasher movie, I still appreciate the effect. While things have been added back in, the Encore edition also takes stuff away. The biggest element many will notice is the material with the Mafia. Obviously this was removed to bring more focus to Sandman and Dixie, but there's a scene or two that would have been fine keeping in. Gone is the rooftop scene where Dutch gives Oni some extortion money, and a scene of the Black Mafia struggling is sort of missed. On top of that, some relationships with the characters change too. In the theatrical cut, Vera jokes around more and tries to be this woman with an immature mind.
Tell me a joke.
Hello, sucker.
In the Encore edition, they downplay some of that. You lose some of her personality, but it interestingly strengthens the relationship between her and Dixie. Another aspect is the element of Gloria Swanson, who gets Dixie a screen test for a gangster movie. The Encore edition removes some references to her, and it just appears like Oni is the one who ends up getting him the screen test.
I heard what Gloria Swanson was saying about you.
Yeah?
A lot of my cash goes different places, if you know what I mean. Some goes to Hollywood, into the studios, into movies. And you could front for us. A lot of my cash goes different places, if you know what I mean. Some goes to Hollywood, into the studios, into movies. And you could front for us.
In fairness, it was said a driver who worked for Oni ended up starring in a lot of classic gangster films like Scarface, but it's lightly hinted in real life if Oni had anything to do with it, than just suggesting him to be in pictures. Speaking of historical elements, it was said that famous celebrities of the time actually visited the Cotton Club. In the theatrical cut, we do see Fanny Brice and James Cagney lookalikes, but the one I'm torn on the most is their depiction of Charlie Chaplin. It just comes off feeling forced to me. While you do see him for a brief moment in the Encore edit, any mention of his name or footage of the Chaplin trademarks are gone, along with Fanny and Cagney. This is a change I can kinda live with. But the biggest element that the Encore edition removes that I'm thankful to see gone is this scene.
Movie star, you got it all.
Me? What about you? You're this famous celebrity. Now you got your own club. Little girl's not even 20 yet.
Yeah, what you had to do to get it.
You could have come with me, you know.
I wouldn't go any place on a shoestring. I've been making my own way since I was 13. Money's the only thing that ever saves you.
Baby, you're wrong. You're very wrong.
Money was the only thing that ever saved me. Money and my looks. I was born looking 18.
I can save you.
No, you can't.
Try me.
You can't. You don't know what it's like being his slave.
This scene makes me feel uncomfortable. It's hard to pinpoint exactly why. The dialogue, the way everything's shoveled out, the feel of redundancy, considering how some of that material is recycled in a scene later on between Vera and Dixie. Just something about this just sours the relationship between those two and clashes with the happy ending they get. But I am thankful of all the changes they made. This scene was gone. In fact, you know what? Forget the theatrical edition. Go straight to the encore edition. Just go straight to it. Just please go straight to it. On the other hand, I shouldn't jump to conclusions fast, as the encore edition does look different too. Coppola decided to give this golden sepia tone look for some reason. I was never a fan of color correction editions unless it was an essential purpose to the use of color. Maybe it was used to hide the low quality of the added footage, but I will admit its usefulness in the final half, where we can actually see things in comparison to the brightness in the theatrical cut. Still, no matter what version you watch, I highly recommend checking this movie out. I feel really bad the Cotton Club bombed at the box office, but hopefully we'll get a second life. There's great music, great performances, a unique story to boost. If you're looking for a movie that is a cross between The Godfather and Chicago, this one is definitely for you. And to Francis Ford Coppola, if you are watching right now, this one goes straight on the DVD shelf. As soon as I make some room. Trust me when I say this. This movie is worth checking out. It's almost like, say, finding a nice bottle of wine in the back of your refrigerator that you didn't know you had for so long. You'll wait for the perfect opportunity to open it up, take a good sip, and you think to yourself, smells good, seems good, maybe it could be good. So, you take that first step. Get a nice little glass out, your little vintage thing. Take a little out. You're a little curious at first. You're unsure whether to take that first step. So, decide to take a sip. You think to yourself, this is good. I want some more. So you don't go for the glass. You go for the frickin' bottle, baby! The whole bottle! Worth it.
Don't know why there's no sun up in the sky, stormy weather, since my man and I ain't together. Keeps raining all the time. Life is bare, gloom and misery everywhere, stormy weather. Just can't keep my poor self together. I'm weary all the time, so weary all the time. I walk around heavy-hearted and sad. Night comes around and I'm still feeling bad. Rain pouring down, blinding every hope I had. Chittering, pattering, beating and splattering drives me mad. Can't go on, everything I had is gone. Stormy weather, since my man and I ain't together. It keeps on raining all the time. Keeps raining all the
Yeah. That was good stuff. Nice. Huh? What is this? Already opened. Florida. I don't remember ordering anything from Florida. My ears!
But how?
Cut.
Thanks, but listen, you white folks are so smart.